So it's no secret camera prices have gotten out of hand over the last few years. All the top-end medium format cameras, the prices skyrocketed years ago. The fan favourites like the Mamiya 7, RZ67, the Hasselblad 500 series, these cameras are costing several thousands of dollars and are out of reach for most people these days. So budget options, what is there left these days? Surprisingly, there are still a few cameras and camera systems available to people that are very, very affordable. But at the lower price point, you're going to have to go into buying these cameras knowing that there are some trade-offs into their functionality, features, or ergonomics compared to these much more expensive and desirable cameras. So one such camera that we're going to talk about today is the Mamiya C220. This is the baby brother to the bigger, heavier and more feature-packed Mamiya C330, but this is a cheaper step-down version of that camera. But despite it being a step-down, less featured version, the C220 was still sold alongside the C330 for its entire lifespan as a more affordable budget option for consumers. So this camera here, along with the 80mm blue dot 2.8 lens, in essentially like new, brand new condition, cost me 450 Australian dollars. Now for what this camera can do, the fact that it has interchangeable lenses and finders, at $450 it's an absolute steal. Now while this camera is inferior in build quality, in handling, and maybe lens design compared to something like the Rolleiflex TLR cameras, it still is completely capable and more than enough than anybody needs to get the job done. And this is kind of where I have landed these days, guys. With the rising cost of film, the rising cost of film chemicals for those of us who develop at home, the rising cost of labs for developing, it is becoming far too expensive to shoot film for a lot of people these days. So I feel like having thousands and thousands of dollars tied up in these really expensive cameras does not make sense for a lot of people anymore unless you are a working film photographer and you can justify the expenses because obviously your clients are paying for them. But for most of us who shoot as a hobby for fun, if you can get the same quality, almost the same quality, but essentially the same outcome for a much cheaper camera, I think you're better off doing that and using that difference in money to pay for film because it's only going to get more expensive. So one great thing about the Mamiya C TLR systems that I briefly mentioned earlier is that they have interchangeable lenses and finders. Also, using bellows focus lets you get up close and do essentially macro style shooting with a variety of lenses. But this is the trade-off with this TLR system compared to others like the Rolleicord and Rolleiflex and Yashica matte cameras. To accommodate the bellows focusing and the interchangeable lenses, the camera is much bigger and much heavier than all of its other TLR counterparts. Now again with trade-offs guys, this isn't the most ergonomic camera I've ever used. The shutter release is in a very, very strange place I think. Now this was remedied on the C330, but on the C220, the shutter release is in a very awkward position that can cause you to tilt the camera each time you are about to take an exposure. Also, the focusing screen is okay, but it's definitely far from being class leading in terms of brightness. But despite the camera's shortcomings, it still is a very, very capable film camera. The 80mm f2.8 blue dot lens that came with my camera here produces great rendering for color photos, and it also has fantastic micro contrast for black and white photography. And like I mentioned earlier, it has a maximum 2.8 aperture and a maximum 1/500th of a second shutter speed. That is exactly the same as the 80mm 2.8 planar lens that can most commonly be found with the Hasselblad 500 series cameras. So like I said earlier guys, at 450 Australian dollars, this camera is not going to break the bank. It is still very affordable for people. So you're getting a medium format camera with interchangeable lenses, so the camera can grow with you as you grow as a photographer. If you want to start shooting wide, if you want to get a longer focal distance for more portrait work, this camera will grow with you. You can also buy prism finders and metered prism finders for this camera as well, so it can make shooting from eye level much easier. So again guys, it's a fully manual camera. As long as you keep it in good condition, potentially get a service once every couple years, it will stand the test of time. This camera here is about 40 years old. So in the interest of saving you guys money, this camera does everything you need it to do, guys. Other camera systems essentially do the exact same thing. The only difference is going to be lens quality and lens characteristics between different camera systems. But Mamiya is known for making some absolute stellar optics, and you're not going to be disappointed with the results that you get from this camera. So there still are budget options out there for you people, and I'm going to endeavor in the next several months to get my hands on some more of these cameras to show you guys, to show that though it is getting more expensive, film photography can still be affordable for everyone. Thanks for watching this episode of Shoots with Coops, guys. Happy shooting, and I'll see you in the next one. If you want to support the channel, head over to 35strapco.com.au. That is my camera strap company. I make all of these by hand myself, hand stitched, hand cut. If you want to support the channel, head over there, pick up a strap. It goes a long way to keeping these videos coming. Thank you again.